Welcome back to Girl Crush Country, where we are obsessed with women in country music. I'm Jess Wright in Nashville, Tennessee, and this is exciting because my guest this week walks the talk when it comes to elevating women in country music. Tenille Arts is in studio.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad you could be here.
Thank you.
Not everybody knows this story, so I want to flash back a few years. You put out your song, Somebody Like That, which I believe in the U.S. at least was a lot of people's introduction to you. And correct me if I'm off on any of this timeline, but you released it in Canada in 2019, and then in the U.S. in 2020. And then it took until April of 2021, 70 weeks, which was a record in itself, to hit number one on the Mediabase chart. And when you did that, you made history in a few ways. And by the way, side note, I was hosting a weekly country countdown at the time that was based entirely on the streams and hearts of our listeners. And it only took 29 weeks on our chart. I'm saying you went to number one in December of 2020.
Love that.
But I digress.
Thank you.
First of all, it was the first time a Canadian artist had topped the chart in 14 years. The first time a female Canadian artist had done it since 2004 when Terry Clark did it with Girls Lie Too. It was your first number one song. And the thing that I talk about when I said you walk the talk was that it was the first time in history a song with an all-female creative team, writers, performers, producer, got a number one. And you were on an independent label, too. I know it's been a minute, but have you come down from that high yet?
Well, it still makes me really excited when you list all of those things off because, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Sometimes I'll forget a little bit about that. And it's like, yeah, no, that really happened. And yeah, what a great way to be introduced to people. You know, lots of people, that was their first time hearing me.
Did you intentionally go into that surrounding yourself with women? I mean, a female producer is not still today that common in Nashville. So that's got to be at least a partially intentional choice.
Yeah, you know, I kind of was looking around just like who I was creating with, and I really found myself writing better, more honest songs with women. I felt more comfortable in the room with them. And not to say that there aren't men that I still collaborate with, that I love, you know, same vibe with them. But, you know, this room felt really great to me. And I did kind of have to fight to have a female producer on some of this stuff. It was kind of like, well, you were working with these other people. What's wrong with these other people? It's like, well, I don't think they fully understand the direction that I want to go. And those were the women sitting in the room that day that were creating this with me. And I fully believed that they were the ones that would help me take this thing to the next level. And it was the most authentic way to do that, was to have that all female team. So that's what we did.
Don't you love being right?
I love it.
It almost feels like I was having this conversation with an author who wrote a book from a woman's perspective. It's all about a woman, but he's not a woman. But it was really good. It was none of that cheesy, like what men think women, that has nothing to do with reality. And I actually talked to him and I said, this is really rare that you're able to do that. And I feel like, sure, there are great producers and songwriters who are men, but they can never possibly know what it's like to experience the world as a woman.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. That's really something that I've had to kind of navigate over the years in an industry that is so male dominated, and finding my moments to stand up for myself. And when I know when something feels right or wrong, and I have to, you know, I'm still learning to this day how to stand up for myself in situations where I feel like I'm being belittled by a man. And it's just like, we should be over this by now. We should be moving on and really trusting the women, and especially the women songwriters, the ones that are creating this music for women. Women want to hear women.
And there's this thing that happens if you are standing up for yourself. You have to, an interesting thing that another thing that I don't think men have to experience, which is that you're standing up for yourself and you're trying not to be a bitch and not to sound too harsh and giggle a little bit when you say it. Or if you're doing it in an email, put a little smiley emoji so that you're not taken the wrong way.
It's exhausting.
It is absolutely
Oh
exhausting.
my gosh. Yeah, I'm trying so hard, not only for myself, but for new artists coming into this industry to kind of change that. And I mean, you caught me coming out of an all-female event where we were celebrating women on the row. And I really feel empowered by those women, because it's not that, we're anti-men. No, we want everyone to win. We really do. And we have great opinions too. And we want to be a part of the conversation, and we should be.
I had a male former program director say to me, "There's never been a worse time to be a man." And I'm like, "Oh, really? Is it so hard for you? I'm so sorry."
Oh.
Are you okay?
Yeah. How are you doing?
How did life and songwriting and everything else change for you after hitting this huge milestone?
It was really interesting. I had a lot of people that are still surrounding me today that have been really great. But I also had some people kind of, fall away or no longer are a part of the team. And I think it's just interesting to watch how some people manage success and who gets greedy and who gets excited and wants to grow things. That was something that I didn't expect. I just thought, oh, everybody's going to be like excited and we're all going to move forward together and this is going to be great. But behind the scenes, there's so many people involved, and unfortunately you don't always align. But I do feel like moving forward with the people that I'm still working with, it's like we know how to achieve those goals. And if everybody stays, on the right path, we can absolutely do that again, because it's been a few years now. And it's like, I think we're all excited to see what we can do with new music and how we can, I don't know if it's topping that. I think there's new goals that need to be in place. And I think, it's a great place to start from, to have all of these women now realizing, oh, they can have number ones too. And it can be an all-female team if they want it to be. And they can also have female producers and work with whoever they want to and create really great music. So I don't know. I feel like personally, yes, it boosts your confidence, but it also, sets the bar kind of high for everything you do following it.
For sure. So to me, it's weird that we are still having the first time a woman did anything in 2026, because it seems like we should have been able to hit those milestones and goals the same way that men have a long time ago. We're still facing this uphill battle. And one example of that, I think, is that you had this history-making song. Granted, it took radio forever to help you get there, but you had this history-making song, and then the follow-up song, Back Then Right Now, still didn't get the same support.
No.
By the way, the chart that I hosted, it went to number 2 in 8 weeks, and it hung out in the top 10 for 35 weeks, and it was in the top 5 for 25 weeks. So we were showing over where I was, we were showing over and over and over again. If you play the music, the fans will say, "Hey, we like women's music." How do you hit back against those boundaries, or do you hit back against those boundaries when you're like, "Hey, I've shown I can be a success," and they're like, "Yeah, we don't know."
I mean, it's definitely slightly discouraging, but at the same time, I know that it's an uphill battle. And, the more we watch new females come into the space, I still think there can be more. I still don't think that we need to there's still this mentality of pinning women against each other for some reason. It's like that we can't all be on the chart at the same time, and it's crazy to me. I mean, I do think that it's improving, but I'd have to run some stats. I haven't done that in a while, but I just think that song specifically was kind of upsetting, because a male came with the exact same title not that long after, and it was just interesting. It was basically the exact same song, and then to watch his do really well and mine fall away was kind of like, that was an interesting one for me to watch.
I loved that song so much. And after prepping to talk to you, I've had that song in my head for several days now. It was really just catchy. And obviously, where I was working, we were able to show that listeners loved that song. How much of a benefit to you, though, do you feel like it is that you can take the music directly to the fans?
Oh, I think that's a huge benefit. To have now kind of a built-in fan base, and country radio did absolutely give that to me, and I'm very, very grateful for it. And because it did open the doors for me to be able to put out even more music and still have those people coming back to it consistently and constantly. And I don't know if I would have had that without the radio success that we had. And then to continue to follow it up with songs, I've done a lot of radio tour. I've met a lot of people, and I still love that side of things. But to be able to really connect and know firsthand, like immediately, whether fans are engaging with it or not, I think that's huge. It's very helpful, I think, for any team in Nashville to be able to look at this real time fan to artist interaction. I mean, it's awesome. I love that we are able to do that.
And you do have 500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify alone.
Yeah.
So I don't want to put you in a position of saying something that could backfire on you down the road. But is radio airplay still a goal? Is it necessary?
It's still a goal for me. Yes, I believe it's still necessary. I think on the big scale of things, I think, seeing how much it quickly moves the career. I think there's a time and place for it. I don't think you need to be pushing for it all the time. I think you also can wait for certain songs to raise their hand as a radio single. You're able to kind of pull some data before you just go, here's our song. And they're like, well, wait, we don't even like it. You know what I mean? Like, you're able to kind of mess around with that a little bit more and just see what radio wants, because there's a reality to that as well, that radio is for the masses. So you kind of have to cater to that a little bit when you're thinking about radio singles.
Mm-hmm. And there is a new way that things are being done now for all artists across the board, whether it comes to radio airplay or even getting signed by a record label, which is that you have to build your own story first, where it used to be that radio and record labels would help build that story for you. And I saw you, I can't remember where I saw this, but I think you said something like you intentionally have not pursued a major record deal because you wanted to maintain control over your sound and your direction and your development.
I go back and forth on that all the time. I know that I have said that in the past, but there's so many pros and cons to being smaller, and you have that smaller structure, but then you're also not necessarily getting new input. And I think that is something that a major label can offer, because there's constantly like moving parts and people coming and going. And that's exciting. But again, that can also be detrimental if your main person that loves you leaves a label and you're still there. Then that's difficult. So I feel for artists in every kind of situation, because honestly, I don't, and this might get me in trouble too, I don't know that anything really favors the artists that much. I think it's sad that sometimes we get put in situations where we're like the last person that people think of. And it's like, no, we're real people. And honestly, without us making this art, you don't have a product. So you need to treat artists with respect and, know when you're overstepping and when to push for things and when not to.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I would say the same applies on the radio side, because these companies are in it for money. Bottom line, that's not even a slam. That's just the fact is that they exist to make a profit.
Yeah.
And they often forget that the talent in both the artist and the on-air personalities, they forget that that's part of what's making them that money. And therefore, perhaps those people should be involved in decisions and direction and like you said, getting that respect.
Yeah, I think it's just something that I've noticed over the years, and some teams are really, really great at it. Some teams struggle, and it's just when everyone is on the same page, that's really the only time that you have true success and success that will last, because we've seen it time and time again. You put out a couple songs here, they do well, and then it's like, whoa, where'd that person go? And it's like, well, there wasn't the structure, there wasn't anything in place to have that be a sustainable career. And we see it often, and it's sad to me, and you hope everybody just keeps grinding, because just because you had early success doesn't mean you're not growing and becoming the artist that will have longevity.
One of the things that I really like that I'm seeing in the business is that women are supporting each other and showing that we're not in competition with each other, that there is room for everybody to succeed. In what ways are you showing support for other artists, and do you feel like you're getting that same support back?
I do. I feel like I'm getting support from people, especially if I reach out first. If I'm just like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while, like, hope you're doing well. And or when somebody has a release, like, I think reaching out to them and just letting them know, hey, I'm here, I'm in your corner, is so important. And then I try to do that same thing with younger artists, because sometimes I'll come across some incredibly talented songwriters and young female artists on TikTok or wherever. And I always message them just being like, love what you're doing, keep going. Like, this is really special. You've got something, because I just don't know that enough women are sharing that advice on, like, I don't care if you have 50 followers or, hundreds of thousands, there's still the need for women to reach out to each other and to continue to support each other and tell them, hey, I love what you're saying in your music. That's something that I have yet to say, or whatever, however you can make it really special and personal.
Like, I feel like you're screaming into the void when especially if you're new and you're trying to build your following, and to get that feedback has to mean so much to them.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I've had people reach out to me in the past, and it's like, just that little bit of, hey, keep going, this is it, you're doing well, it means so much. You also never know what that artist is going through at that moment, because things grow and fall apart every day in an artist's career, and it's like, yeah, you just don't know.
Can you tell us who some of those artists are? Like, who should we be looking for? Who should we be having on Girl Crush Country?
Well, Carly Pearce has been somebody that, since we were on tour with Lady A, that was probably one of the artists that we've talked probably the most. And then Hillary from Lady A as well. I have a lot of girlfriends that are just killing it, and you try to lean into that, and you try to talk to them and respond to their stories when they post new things, and just, it's a lot more of that. It's a lot less of like, let me text every artist that I know and have conversations with them. It's more of like that online support of like, hey, I know that person's still supporting me. If I ever needed anything, they told me I can reach out, and that's really cool.
I love seeing, if I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see somebody post something good that happened to them, and then you see all of these artists who comment and are cheering for them.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
It is cool.
When you put out your 2024 album, to be honest, you said that you took a lot of chances and risks with it. So we're almost 2 years out from that project. When you look back at it now, are there any of those risks that you're particularly proud of, and are they shaping the new music?
That was such an interesting record to put together, because in my mind, I had this like very clear vision, and I really stuck to it. And I'm so proud of all of the music on that album. And I do feel like I pushed the boundaries a little bit more, like pop, kind of like 80s synth. There was like some cool stuff going on in there. And this new music that I've been working on, I really feel like is a combination of that, but then also like some of the first few songs that I ever released. Like, I feel like it's a mix of those two. Really kind of getting back to my roots and just writing, what feels natural. I feel like sometimes if I get too in my head about like, what is the direction, I kind of lose track of like, okay, but obviously if my mind and my creativity is taking me a different direction than what I set out to do, then I need to kind of follow that. And that's kind of where I've just changed my vision a little bit with this new music.
So your most recent release came out in December. I love this song, Don't Ruin Flowers.
Thank you.
A breakup can ruin songs and restaurants and TV shows and hometowns. We've heard songs about all of these things. Has somebody actually ruined a Kenny Chesney song for you? Who is it? We just want to talk.
I cannot name names, but yeah.
We just want to talk to him. We just want to know.
No, I mean, kind of yes, but no. We won't give him that credit.
All right, fine. Well, let's talk about the song though. How did you come up with that?
So this one was actually really interesting. I wrote it with Lydia Sutherland and Ryan Cohn, and Lydia had texted me like, hey, our third for this Friday, like, can't come anymore. Are you free? And I was like, yeah, of course. And so I showed up, and we were actually writing a different song at the beginning of the session. And I don't even remember what it was called. But there came a point where we were like, we kind of like were writing in circles. And we were just like, oh man, we can't figure it out. And then Lydia and I were talking, and I was like, I have this other idea. I don't usually pivot, but I have this other idea because I basically went down a rabbit hole on TikTok of people going through breakups. It was very random. It just kept feeding it to me. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to read the comments. I'm going to see like what people are talking about. And this one girl was like, yeah, why do guys feel the need to buy us flowers? Like, when they need to apologize. It literally ruins flowers for me. It's just a constant reminder sitting there, like reminding me that they did something wrong. And I just thought that was so interesting. Like, you can have all of these other things, but like for me specifically, flowers are something that are so special. I mean, every big moment in my life, I can remember, being handed flowers. And that was just something that was so just sacred. And the fact that my ex gave me flowers like a lot, and then for the wrong reasons, and it just really felt like, ew, like what kind of guy does that to a girl? That felt like a really big, like deep knife, and so we started talking about that, and Lydia and Ryan were so into it, and the melody just came right out, and it felt like the universe was telling us to write it because Lydia's parents actually owned a flower shop. And so she was like, this is so perfect. We need to write about this. I love flowers so much. So just kind of all came together in this really weird way. And I'm just so grateful that it happened.
I love that perspective because back when I was still married, I was working over on Music Row, and my boss came into the office it was Friday afternoon. It was right after lunch, and he had roses. And my first thought, which probably says more about my marriage than his, but my first thought was, and what I said to him was, oh, what'd you do? And he was like, I buy my wife flowers every Friday. And I was like, oh, flowers are a good thing. Oh, like, so that perspective, like you don't even think about this perception that the only reason men would buy you flowers is if they've done something wrong.
Yeah. I mean, and that's just, we shouldn't stand for that kind of stuff, So I think I've had a lot of people responding, being like, oh my gosh, I feel this exact same way, and it's just, yeah, I watched this whole thing. Side note, another thing on TikTok, just this girl was like telling this whole story about how all she wanted for Valentine's Day was flowers, and like, how hard is it to like, it doesn't have to be, a $200 bouquet. It can be a daisy, it can be one singular flower. It's what it means and what it means to women specifically.
Agreed. What is on the horizon new music wise? Do you have anything you can tell us about?
Yeah, I've been working on just a lot of new stuff that feels very me, very, like I said, kind of getting back to my roots, writing about growing up in a small town and things like that, but really trying to find different ways to talk about it because we've all heard the hometown songs. But I think for me now moving forward, I've got a lot of breakup songs. I've got a lot of songs that talk about, what the empowering feeling that you get once you're kind of past that initial breakup phase, and how a lot of women specifically, in their 30s, there's a range of like what we're going through at the moment. And I was like, I can't write from the perspective of, being a mom or, getting married and doing all of these things, because I'm really focused on my career and that's what I want to do. But we're watching a lot of women like start over, and whatever age that is, whatever phase you're in life, like I just don't think that that's being talked about enough in country music. Like you don't have to have it all together. You can be in that in between. And I think a great start to this was a song called Unbecoming. And it really talks about how I felt like I needed to unlearn so many things, like things that were just put on me without me even wanting any of that knowledge or advice or anything like that. And so really unlearning those things so that I can be open to becoming who I'm really meant to be. And I'm kind of in that phase right now. And it feels, it's the unknown can be a little scary, but it's also very exciting to be able to reinvent yourself and become who you want to be.
That feels so relatable, I think, to women of all ages, because we are in this season where women are figuring out, wait a minute, we don't have to only strive to get married and have kids. Like that's a thing that was sold to us. Mm-hmm. And we all just sort of took it for granted that that's what we have to strive for, but also not do, like, that's fine if that's what you want to do. And also not doing that is fine. Yeah. If that's what you want to do.
You can be everywhere in between. And so that's the music that I'm trying to create. And I'm just trying to come at it from a real place because that's where I am, and so it'll be real and honest, however it comes at you.
Oh, I'm excited to hear it.
Thank you.
I almost forgot to ask you about this. I was talking with one of your former radio promo reps, Suzanne.
Oh my gosh, I love Suzanne.
And she's one of my favorite humans. She reminded me about your blinged out denim jackets. Are you still doing that?
I still make them every once in a while. It depends for what for, but yeah, I'm still making those and guitars and all kinds of things.
Do you actually sell that at your merch table?
I don't. I've done some giveaways though. That's kind of how I've been doing it because it gets to be a lot of work for just me to do it. But I still am making them, and I've thought about making a little Etsy store or something like that because I just love to do it. I like, that's my downtime, bedazzling one at a time.
That's so cool. That's so creative. All right. So I always like to finish with a little flash round.
All right.
Super easy, not deep questions.
Okay.
And maybe questions you've been asked before. I try not to do that, but sometimes they're just fun.
Yeah.
What song do you wish you wrote?
The House That Built Me.
Good one. Who's on the performance or songwriting collaboration bucket list?
Ooh, bucket list. That's so hard because there's so many, and I've actually been able to write with some of them. I think if I could be like a regular on Liz Rose's schedule, that'd be really nice.
Yeah, it would. What song is stuck in your head lately?
Megan Patrick, Golden Child.
Oh, good one.
Yeah.
I already said mine's Back Then Right Now. I've seriously been singing
it
over and over and over again. Tenille Arts, I'm such a fangirl. I am so excited that you were able to come by. Thank you for giving us your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
You can listen to Don't Ruin Flowers on the Girl Crush Country Spotify playlist. And if you guys love what we're doing here, shining a light on the incredible women in country music, subscribe to the channel, join our community, grab the official playlist to hear Tenille's new music. Join the Girl Crush Country newsletter. Get it right in your inbox. A weekly roundup of everything you need to know with women in country music. All of the links that you need are at girlcrushcountry.com. And comment below your favorite Tenille Arts song.